So let's talk about strategy from a business owner's perspective. I mean, most businesses, owners, leaders, they don't wake up thinking about strategy. They wake up thinking about 100 things they've got to do just to keep the lights on, right? And you and I have been there. We've worked on businesses that have been very much about operations, about growth, about just figuring out what to do next. And we've led teams and we've over the course of our careers, we've been in corporate environments, so we've kind of learned some of the benefits of this. But if you started out as a one-person shop, you probably built your business on hustle and grit and just figuring it out. Now, maybe you've had a few people, but everything's still going through you, right? So at some point, you got to step back and think, the this I am not leading this business. This business is leading me. And honestly, like, what can business leaders do to start to think about strategy a little bit differently?
I don't think most business people don't even come to this conversation themselves. I mean, they're like you said, we're so busy running and gunning and doing the things that got us here. A lot of people they find success in their business and they just want to put that on repeat. They keep doing the things that are working. And you wake up every day and you've got 50 things to do and pulling you in different directions. And you're busy working in the business, and it's because it works. It's successful. And so it can be a hard sell sometimes to get somebody who owns a business and it has a level of success to want to even have a conversation about something ethereal like strategic planning. And that's what it can feel like in the beginning. And I'm here to say it's not ethereal. It's actually very practical when viewed through the proper lenses. But most of us don't have it brought to us that way. Most of us here, you need to stop what you're doing and waste 3 days, learning about your business. You're like, well, I already know my business. So can we go make some money? And that's, I feel like, how I initially started thinking about strategic planning was, hey, what's wrong with what we're doing? It's working. We're making money. I got plenty of runway to make some more money. So let's go do that. But to your point earlier that, if you're not careful at some point, you're going to look up and you're all you're doing is working in the business. There's no thinking about the future, where we're going, what we're going to do. And your competition can sneak up on you. Problems can sneak up on you. Marketplace conditions can sneak up on you. The team can become scattered. No one really knows exactly where we're going. Resources can get divided because we're not exactly sure what we're working on. We just know we're supposed to be moving forward. And so, I feel like that was sort of my aha moment, is that I started realizing that there can be some real on the ground benefits to strategic planning, meaning, my love language as a business owner is dollars and cents. And if there is a way to save money, if there's a way to direct money and get the most out of the precious dollars that I'm spending, I would like to have that conversation, but I don't think it's always presented to business owners that way. Like I said earlier, it's just about stopping what you're doing and, kumbayaing about your business for 3 days. And I think if we can switch our mindset to go, how can I get some things out of this that are actually going to catapult the things forward that I care about in my business, namely profitability and a high functioning team?
Yeah, that's really interesting about, you know, the mindset where you feel like you can't take the time to stop what you're doing to kind of look a little bit further ahead, right? The irony of that statement is if you don't do that, you will never be able to step away. Your business will be fully dependent on you until you decide that it's not, right? And that's where strategy, I think, can really help change someone's business. It can change their outlook. It can help them get unstuck. It can take them from chaos to clarity. Strategy is about choices. It's about making choices on where you want to go. It's also about making choices about where you don't want to go and what you don't want to be. And so this conversation is about the intention of where do you see yourself as a business owner. If you look up 2, 3, 4, 10 years from now, are you going to be satisfied if you're in the same spot versus maybe you've got some other plans, right? Maybe you do have a different idea of what growth looks like that doesn't depend on you. You've hit a ceiling, you want to grow, you're not sure what lever to pull, but if you don't step away and give it some thought, you're never going to get out of that.
Yeah, that's really good, Brett. And I think about how most business owners honestly have to almost come to that point kicking and screaming, like something has
Yeah.
to happen before
Gotta
they
feel some pain.
realize what they're dealing with. And you nailed it. You look up when they go, I'm never going to get out of this hamster wheel. All I ever do is work, 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 work. And what's going to happen if I ever want to start dreaming about new things in my business, or if I want to step away a little bit? There's really no plan for that. And I think that's where a lot of our customers, our clients, have come to us, at that point going, hey, man, this worked for a long time, but I am just becoming more and more overwhelmed and don't really have a plan on how to get out of that. And so that's when I think, unfortunately, it takes some pain sometimes to get us to kind of look at things and go, where do we go from here? And how do I solve this problem of me being the primary bottleneck of the growth of my business?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you're wearing all the hats, again, there comes a point where we've seen people who are just ready to give it up, throw in the towel. We've seen people who are thriving because they have decided, I don't have to do everything. I can lead from the front instead of from behind, right? I love the idea of when you start your business, you're in the ditch with your team, like you're in the trenches, you're fighting, you're battling. As you grow, your first step is to crawl out of the ditch, right? Because then you can help your team get out of it. But where you need to get to is helping them avoid the ditch. You are ahead of the curve. You're looking around corners. You're anticipating some of those changes and shifts that you're talking about earlier. Because if you don't, you will be stuck in that ditch. And at some point, you're going to want to give up, right? Because nobody's coming to rescue you.
That's right. Well, I can tell you from my perspective, just for people listening here, if you're a business owner and you're going, is this something that I need to look into planning for the future, strategic planning? One of the things that really stuck out to me was just again the tools that I got from strategic planning that made my life simpler and my business flow better. After strategic planning, you actually have a plan that everyone on the team agrees with and understands. We don't have to sit around and talk endlessly about should we do this? Should we do that? We have already agreed on what we're doing, and our meetings become opportunities to check in on the progress of what we already agreed to do. It avoids a lot of the confusion that can happen in a given day because these shiny objects come across our path that look like great opportunities, and suddenly we derail and we're looking at these shiny objects as opposed to being all in one accord, focusing on one goal and objective. It makes life so much simpler. And everyone across your business, your marketing, your sales, your people, they all have marching orders. They know where they're going from this point forward. And so it really doesn't take a whole lot of hand wringing to go, what do we do next? We all look at each other and go, does it fit within the framework that we discussed in our strategic planning? And if it does, great. We move forward. Nobody's going to come ask you. They already know what to do. It removes any of that guesswork and it keeps us from spending a lot of time chasing rabbits that actually don't make us profitable. And that's when that whole profitability becomes very important because you don't have team members chasing things that waste your money. Little experiments over here on the side with this marketing thing or this new sales tool that's going to make everybody sell 10% more. If we didn't agree on doing it in the strategic plan, it's not going to happen. And we have to all get back together and talk about it again if something is such an opportunity that it rises to a level that we need to get together and talk about it. That was freeing to me as a business owner. So strategic planning needs to be looked at as a simplification of my business, making life easier on me and everyone else so that my business can run smoother. When you look at through those lenses as a business owner, you go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I am interested in that. That sounds like something I might be able to get behind instead of seeing it as a time waster where we're all going to get together and discuss our feelings about the business. It's not that. It's about getting on the same page and then executing a simplified plan for where we want to go over the next 1, 2, 3, and even 5 years out.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of years in corporate where strategy is everywhere. It's kind of a buzzword, but it doesn't mean much because it's a lot of times it's overcomplicated and it's not tangible. It is more ethereal, like you said. But I think where you and I connected on this is like we have a passion for bringing it down to earth for people and really like we're teachers at heart. We care immensely about helping people succeed. We're not the gurus on the stage. We don't care about that. Like we're walking this journey too, right? Like we're figuring this out as we build this business, learning, testing, growing alongside. But to your point, like you can't just work harder. You can't just go spend money without an idea of what it's going to return for you because you're just digging a deeper hole at that point.
That's right. Something else I'll add to this too is that and I don't mean this ugly to people who do this for a living, but a lot of people in the strategic planning business have never actually run a business. They have never had to answer for anything or make payroll or any of that kind of stuff. And so it can get really in the weeds and really kind of out there. And I think one of the things we really do well is keeping it simple and keeping it no BS. We are not going to sit around and get too crazy with this. It has to be practical. And if the strategic planning we're doing doesn't bring practical value to your business, we shouldn't be talking about it. You can beat a dead horse in this industry of planning, and people make a lot of money doing that. And I think to what you said earlier of, no BS, simplified, no guru approach to just getting in, figuring our plan out, and then getting out and beginning to execute it. That's a value that people are going to get from working with us because we don't want to waste our time either talking about things that are going to get us less and less value the longer we talk.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. In terms of like how do we do that? How do we make it practical? I mean, it's not in a binder that's going to sit on the shelf, right? It's about everyday choices, having the clarity to know which direction to turn. It's like you said, getting people on the same bus, headed in the same direction. What's an example of, maybe what that might look like for somebody who decided to work with us?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things to do is to get either the owner or the owner and their top people together. And let's do kind of an analysis, a deep dive into the business and keep it really simple, but find out the things that are working in the business, the things that are not working in the business, and have everybody in the room contributing. One of the things that I'm a big believer in, and I always jokingly called it the no fire zone. On this day, when we are talking about our business, no one can get fired, okay? You can say whatever you want. Even if I am the problem in the business, that's okay to say that. You get to say it today. And I think that frees people up a little bit. And you have to mean it. You have to be serious about that because otherwise you're not going to get the truth about your business from people. And it is extremely important that your leaders can speak freely to you in that environment. And so working with Brent and I, we can come in and facilitate that process, push on your people a little bit, and push on you a little bit as the owner to say the truth. Give that last 10% of truth that no one really wants to say, but everybody knows is there. Those are some of the biggest breakthroughs that can happen. And then once we figure out the things that are working in the business, we magnify those things. And then we find the things that are not working in the business, we figure out a plan to fix them. And then along the way, we're going to learn some things that are maybe absent from the business, some things that people don't have clarity around. And we're going to work through all of those things as kind of a step one to figuring out where our biggest opportunities are and our biggest weaknesses are in the business. And that kind of gives us a plan from that point to put together what that 1, 2, and 3 year plan looks like, given the circumstances on the ground in the business currently.
Yeah, that's a great example because what I think a lot of people don't realize, and you and I didn't realize it in the beginning either. The people you have working on your team have so much insight into what actually works and what doesn't. And if you don't listen to them, if you don't give them the forum to have that conversation, like you said, in a very safe, non-judgmental, non-threatening space, uh, you're missing like gold, like low-hanging fruit where there can be an idea. Oh, and by the way, and this has happened, I think every time I've ever done this. One person puts something up on the board. There are multiple people then who have the same thing, right? That they're calling out. It's like, we all thought the same thing, but we never said anything, right? Because you didn't stop to ask. You didn't stop and make the time and space for that to happen. So utilizing your team in this process, huge.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes leaders make, I think, is assuming that they kind of know exactly what's going on in every area of their business. A lot of times that comes as a founder or an owner, the original person in this business comes from, I've done every job in the business. I remember when I first started at the business we built together, I literally was faxing. That's back when we used fax machines. I was faxing things. I was emailing the contracts. I was making cold calls. I literally even was helping build the website. And I don't know anything about building websites, but I was doing it all because, you all have to come together when things are hard and make it work. And so I think a lot of it comes from that mentality that I've done all of this. So I kind of have my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the business. But the truth is the business grows around you. And once you've been out of it 6 months, even maybe even less than that, things change. And you need to have your people in the room telling you what's actually going on there. And you need to give them the space to tell you their views on what's going on in, whether it's the marketing department, the sales department, the IT department, whatever it is, they need to have the freedom to speak up and talk. And then as owners, we have to listen to them. One of our biggest jobs is hiring good people. And then when we do that, we trust those people to bring us information. There's a whole process we can go through about whether we trust people or not on the team, but if you've got them in charge of that area, you need to listen. Owners who don't listen, they can be the ones that often have the biggest struggle in getting out beyond this initial level of growth in their business because they're the lid on the business. They've become the biggest weakness in the business because they're not willing to hear what's actually happening in the business. Or even worse, they may not be willing to admit maybe they're part of the problem and they're going to have to listen to their team in order to get to that information.
Yeah, I love the quote from our former boss, Dave Ramsey. He likes to say, "The bad news is you are the problem in your business. The good news is you are the solution."
Exactly
And
right.
as a leader, like accepting and owning that gives you so much empowerment to just think about how you're doing things in a different way, right? And letting down your guard a little bit, admitting that you're human, admitting that you don't know everything, when you bring other people along that can shine a light in some of dark corners or bridge some of the gaps in your skill set, like again, the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? There's so much more opportunity when you're bringing people with you who can just give you that support and give you that additional strength. So kind of tying back to what you just said about leaders who listen are going to have a lot more success with this. What are some other traits of someone who might benefit the most from kind of diving into some of this with us?
Well, that willingness to be just for more than anything, just being open to this process of discovery about your business. One of the things that one of my core values has always been I'm not concerned with being right. I'm concerned with being successful. I don't really care if my idea is the winning idea that produces the results. Really, as the owner, our job is to pull great people together and listen to their ideas, listen to what's coming in the room, and then work with them to come up with the right move forward. So, one of the best pieces of advice I can give an owner is to stop being so committed to being the guy with all the ideas. That's not what you get paid for. You get paid to surround yourself with really smart people, ideally people who are smarter than you, and you're the one that plays wise Solomon in the room to figure out where we should go from here. That was one of my, I think, greatest keys to success was listening to a whole bunch of smart people in the room and then being able to filter all of that with the knowledge that I already had about the business and the years I'd put into it and then help pick where we're moving from here. And so stop being married to the idea that you've got to author the next big idea, the greatest thing that's going to happen in this business. Instead, get really committed to filtering these ideas, listening to your people and finding out what makes the most sense, not only to you, but also to the people in the room. Because again, we can be the lid on our business. We can be the weak link. And there are times where, you may have been the guy in the beginning to get this thing off the ground, but it's going to take some people with some different ideas who maybe, are more familiar. Let's say, maybe it's a marketing strategy and you came up in the days of billboards and yellow pages. And now we are in the era of social media and Google advertisement. If you don't have a grasp of that, Don't feel like you got to be the guy that comes up with all the answers. Listen to the smart people in the room. And from there, you can figure out the principles that you want to move forward with, and they can do kind of the how, so to speak.
That's right. Well, I mean, if you're a business owner or leader, team leader, if you're tired of overcomplicating and getting advice that makes your job even harder, I think you're in the right place, right? This channel is where we seek to make strategy simple. So, at the minimum, like this video, subscribe to the channel when you're ready. Check out howtobusinesscoaching.com. Maybe book a session with us and get to know us a little bit more. But we'd love to have you join the conversation. Heath, anything else you'd leave with?
Just want to encourage business owners out there. It's tough out there. You're in the trenches every day. And we're just two regular guys who've had a lot of success together building businesses. And more than anything, we just love to talk shop. We love to talk business. And so, if you need somebody, ear to bend, somebody just to kind of bounce some stuff off of, that is our favorite thing in the world to do. We get real excited about talking about business because we've been in a lot of places you're at right now. And we don't have all the answers either. If we don't know what the answer is, we'll tell you we don't know, but we'll certainly be there to brainstorm with you and help you come up with some new things to try in your business.
Awesome. See you next time.
See ya.